Welcome back, everyone. Mike McConville here, Stratford, Ontario, Canada. I have a very special treat for you here today. This is a Michael Gurian, 1977 Michael Gurian. 43 years ago, he had anticipated that this guitar will eventually need a neck reset, and that's exactly what it needs. Now, the way he attaches the neck to the body is quite ingenious. When you think about all the different sort of neck joint configurations that have appeared over the years in the industry, Michael Gurian's take on a removable mechanical joint employs two ebony pins. Now I reach in with the side cutters, I've already done it on this side, and just against the head block I kind of loosen that pin off, and this is what we've got. We have a tapered ebony pin, one on each side of the head block. So let me get the other one. There is our other ebony pin. I will need to heat this fingerboard extension up and slip that joint and pull the neck right out, because we're going to have to reposition the holes that receive the dowels. As we see in many acoustic guitar neck joints, the actual fingerboard extension is glued to the surface of a soundboard. But what's interesting in this case is it's a tenon and mortise, which isn't that unusual. But what Michael has done is he has two tapered ebony pins. So here's the challenge. I had adjusted those inside cheeks to set the neck angle back a little bit to buy back some real estate from all those years of string tension. And that's pretty typical. But the challenge now is these tapered holes are not going to correspond anymore to the tapered holes in the block. Okay, so I thought this drawing may help to clarify things. I just drew this up on a piece of scrap bristle board. This surface here is the surface that glues to the rosewood back, and of course this is the top surface that glues to the soundboard. This, as you can see, is the recess or mortise in the head block. This pin is fed in from the outside edge of the head block. The actual mortise itself is 3/4 of an inch wide, and then you've got 7/8 of an inch of mahogany on either side. So I've done up this drawing specifically for my Patreon subscribers, the builders and techs. If you're considering tackling this version of a neck to body joint, which I think it's timeless. I think it's a great idea. Anyway, so you got your dimensions. So your overall width, 2.5 inches. Overall height is 4 inches. And your overall depth is 1 5/8. You've got a 3/4 inch mortise and then 7/8 of an inch of meat on either side of that mortise, and of course these tapered pins. One guess what this is. One more hockey puck trick. So what you're looking at here is my storyboard. So that's going to tell me how deep I need to ream the new holes that we put in that tenon to get a perfect fit. Before I go to the next few steps, I need to explain something about the neck to body angle. There are 6 different planes that need to be correct on this neck to body angle. The neck needs to be correct this way and this way. It needs to be correct this way or this way, and it needs to be correct this way or this way. 40 years plus of string pull has kind of pulled the neck up like this. So we've taken the neck off, and the main angle that we're after and that we have reset successfully, I'm going to show you in a second, is this angle here. We've tilted the neck back. So when I set that straight edge on the frets and I slip up to the bridge, should just kiss the top of the bridge, just like that. That is the perfect neck to body angle. So that's going to leave us lots of room on the saddle for many years to come to be able to adjust the action with any gauge of string anywhere the customer chooses. I actually prefer to use the XLT model of workstation when I'm at this stage of the neck reset. In this temporary setup, as we check to make sure all of those 6 angles I just discussed are perfect, this is how I set up. The neck is held in place with a canvas strap. I've got this heavy-duty rubber band that you've seen me use in other videos, and a piece of hockey puck. Now that is tensioned to pull the tip of the heel in tight, and that's what sets the neck angle this way. I've got this quick grip clamp to hold the fingerboard at the neck to body junction tight down to the soundboard. So I've checked all of those angles that we just previously discussed. Now what I'm doing is I'm reaching into that tapered hole. I've actually tapered this pencil so I've got a perfect press fit so that when I mark that dowel, I'm going to get it on dead center. I'll reach in first to the upper dowel, which comes in from the base side of the head block. I've got this just long enough to mark our center for the new location of those tapered pins. So I'm just getting the treble side now. Be careful that nothing shifts while I do this. Now we'll take it apart and have a look. So that's our new center for the lower pin, and that is our new center for the upper pin. Two things I love about this setup with the new drill press. Number one, it's on an air switch. Number two, I've got that laser guided centering light. Whew, for a job like this, super critical. Here we go, showtime at last. There's our base side pin. Our treble side pin. Yeah, you can see that pulling right tight when I tap that pin in. That's a good sign. Wipe that up. No trace of glue. So we'll get our dry stick. Oh, you see a little bit of squeeze when I put that on there. So I'd actually edge dress that while the neck was off. I still have to smooth it out, but it's flush. I'll load this canvas wheel up at Jeweler's Roost. This is what we ended up with the original saddle. The low E and low A, there was enough on the saddle to intonate them perfectly. What I'm referring to here is fretting the 7th fret note and then fretting the 19th fret corresponding octave note on the same string. These were the only 2 strings out of 6 that intonated. The D string and the G were 8 cents flat, and they were right to the leading edge. So we definitely need to make a cantilevered saddle to get this to line up perfectly. The B was 2 cents sharp, and there was a little bit of room for that to go back, so I think we're going to be okay with this footprint. So I'm going to just widen the saddle to the full 1/8 inch, and that'll give us a little bit more to play with as far as the B string, bringing it back that little bit. The high E string was 4 cents flat, and again, it was right at the front of the saddle. We are going to have to cantilever to get this to line up. I've already lined it up with the existing slot, and like all the accessories, the disc assembly for your drill press, the XLT, and the GPS workstations, all of these tools are engineered for you to flip the purchase price in 1 or 2 jobs at the most. So this indexing plate that comes with your bridge slotting jig is a CNC duplicate of the Bosch Colt router base. So the indexing pin basically takes all of the guesswork out. Long before you flip the switch on the router, I know exactly where the cut starts, where it ends, and its trajectory. I actually loosened off the rails and then retightened them just to give us that little bit of extra play. This is actually wider than 1/8 of an inch. I made the cut tight to this side. When I got to the stop, I moved over. You can see it's about 20 thou. I moved over, came back. So this will give us lots of room to line up the intonation all the way across. We've widened the slot front and back. Nothing quite like the smell of Brazilian rosewood. On with the cantilevered saddle. No clamps. Everything is finger tightened. This is why I leave them in that long stick form, so they can be used for nuts or saddles. So the first thing we're doing is basically fitting that thickness of the leg so that it drops into that slot. So the next step, I'm just skimming it down to fit that slot. Back to the guitar. Oh yeah, that's the fit we're after. With a drill press disc sander assembly, I'm just going to kiss the underside of that cantilevered ledge to match the curvature of the crown of the rosewood bridge. So the calculations are based on the tuning discrepancies from the original saddle. I have crowned that blank to match the fingerboard radius. So the next step now is to cut these values. Well, in the final analysis, this is what we have. So before I take it into the studio and really let you hear this thing chord to chord, fret to fret, note to note, I thought I would just bring you in close and let you see where we ended up as far as that saddle goes. This is the final call on the nut. This is his Gurian Workshop Earth, third planet from the sun label. Well, this amazing Gurian guitar is finally done, tweaked to the nines. This is what we ended up with at the bridge. I've got those 3 sets of strings out because I went through 3 sets of strings to determine the best string for playability and tonal response. I started out with the bluegrass strings, the EJ19s. I had mentioned this to the customer, we'll try the bluegrass strings, and we did, but it just wasn't working. The guitar was choking, and I ended up dropping down to regular light strings, and it was much better. But it wasn't until I put on the custom light strings that this guitar just opened up like a book. With the neck reset completed, that is the fit of the heel to the sides on the bass side, and there's the fit on the treble side. Michael Gurian was to the States what Jean Larrivee is to Canada. Michael Millard, Thomas Humphrey, there's a whole raft of people that got started with Michael Gurian back in the 70s. He spurred that initial boutique guitar building industry that inspired Collings and Santa Cruz and Mossman and all those guys to get started. Much like Larrivee, who was the epicenter in Canada, and obviously got Linda Manzer and Grit Laskin and George Gray and David Wren and Serge de Jong, all those guys started. Larrivee and Michael Gurian are actually quite good friends. I was delighted when Michael Gurian showed up at my shop all those years ago and gave me some very sage advice on various things. And I am delighted to have this guitar and to bring it back from 40 years of languishing in the case. So I put this chord progression together in A. And like the latest sort of K&K system, it's like we've come full circle. We've come back to a system that does not require any batteries at all. You just plug in and go. It's quite impressive, but it's really the acoustic guitar I want you to hear. This is just the camera mic you're listening to. I have recorded a similar progression to what I just played. I'm going to let that go, and then I'm just going to play acoustically. I really want you to hear this thing acoustically, so even within the limitations of the camera mic, hopefully you get an appreciation for just how magnificent this guitar sounds. I will plug it in too, but it's really the acoustic sounds. We're going to let this play. So that was the Barkasberry recording against this guitar acoustically. I will plug it in. Like I said, I'm reluctant to plug it in because it's really the acoustic sound of this guitar that's amazing. Here's the same thing with the guitar plugged in with that Barkasberry Hot Dot from 1977. Actually sounds pretty good. So here we go.